Hi guys, welcome back once again to The Edward. I'm your host Eddie, and in tonight's video I will be doing my episode recap and review for episode 7 of season 5 of Falling Skies. So, this was an interesting one, although even though I think they wanted to kind of surprise us and make us go, you know, I kind of saw it coming. Oh, sorry, before I proceed, as of course, with like all of my episode review videos for any TV show that I'm following, this will be full of spoilers. So if you're not caught up on Falling Skies, if you're behind a few episodes, this review and recap video is full of big spoilers. So do not keep watching or listening to this video as I will be discussing said spoilers. That being said, this episode was definitely familiar to me. This really reminded me of the time they arrived in Charleston, South Carolina, and they found it as a fully operational, refugee base, and, they had the military there. There was lots of people running around. Now they have arrived in Norfolk, Virginia, and Tom and a couple of other of the main characters have gone ahead while the second mast stays behind, just to make sure that this base is friendly. And when I say friendly, I mean like non-hostile, of course, and, not Ashveni controlled or anything like that. So they go there, and it turns out, son of a gun, who's the commanding officer there? Colonel Weaver's ex-girlfriend. So it's like, oh, okay, nice to see a familiar face. And speaking of familiar faces, I kept thinking to myself, who the hell is that? Oh my God, she looks so familiar. Where have I seen her before? And then it hits me. It's Jan from The Office. Michael's on-again, off-again girlfriend from the U.S. Series of The Office. It was Jan. I'm like, oh my God, it's that actress. And sure enough, her name appears, Melora Hardin. And she was good. She was really good in this episode. I think we're definitely going to see her in the next episode, or hell, maybe till the end of the season. Maybe she'll be one of the casualties or something. But Tom, Weaver, Tom's sons, and Maggie, and Anne, and Isabella are all there kind of scoping out the place to get a feel for it before they summon the rest of the second mass to join them. And the rest of the second mass, well, actually, no, sorry, I'm wrong. They do get the second mass to join them because now they know that this base is safe for the moment. But Dingon and Cochise have remained behind, trying to figure out how the hell they're going to move this Ishveni communication device, because they still want to attempt to use it to intercept Ishveni communication and learn of their enemy's attack and all of the activity that's happening in D.C. That's why they even stopped at this military base in Norfolk in the first place. Refit themselves, reorganize, possibly gain new allies, and march... Sorry, my neighbors really like fireworks in my neighborhood. March on DC. So now the second mass, everybody in the second mass has arrived at this military base, except for Cochise and Dingon, who have stayed behind along with a few other guys to figure out how the hell they're going to transport this communication device. So Weaver is enjoying catching up with his old flame, and everybody else seems to be settling in just fine. There was an eerie similarity of, like I said, of the episode going all the way back to Season 2 when the second mass first arrives in Charleston. And then they're in a cafeteria. Everybody's got lunch trays. They're eating dinner. And, they're like mingling with the military personnel there. And it's like all army soldiers and whatnot. And it's operated by Weaver's ex-girlfriend, Katie Marshall, Captain Katie Marshall. And one of the very first things that I noticed about her, as she turned, and Weaver noticed it too, she had a little nick on her neck, a little scratch. And at first I thought it was nothing, but then I immediately thought to myself, oh, God damn it, she is probably under Ishveni influence. And if not the entire military force there is, she definitely is. So I'm like, oh, God damn it, she's under Ishveni influence. Oh, no, this is going to be a problem. But they don't really address it at first. But Weaver definitely notices it, and he keeps glancing at it from time to time throughout the rest of the episode. Our characters are trying to mingle with the military personnel. Some of the guys kind of give Ben a hard time for having spikes in his back, but they kind of laugh it off as, oh, we're just messing with you, we're just playing, haha, super freak. And I'm like, God, that's a hurtful nickname. You just met the guy and you're calling him Super Freak. Granted, he's got spikes in the back of his neck, but what the hell, man? That's insensitive. And oh, I immediately hated that character, one of the sergeants or the privates, whatever. He talked with a strong Southern accent, like I'm a know-it-all Southern boy who knows how to handle guns, and I joined the military because I'm a dumb shit and I don't know what to do with myself. Oh, he just struck me as that attitude, that kind of guy with that attitude, and oh, I immediately took a disliking to him. So I really did not care for that character. And of course, he tries to make advances on Maggie and Isabella. And speaking of Maggie, she and Hal are kind of at a an on again, off again relationship right now, because they're trying to figure out, are we together? Are we together? Are we separated? Are we together? Are we separated? Because Hal seems to have taken a liking to Isabella, where Maggie prefers to be left alone. So, and then Maggie finally reveals to Hal, I didn't do this for me. I didn't do it for the second mass. She's talking about having her spikes removed by Cochise in the last episode. She's like, I did this for you, Hal. I want to be with you. I love you. But obviously, Hal didn't see it that way. So now they're kind of at this, they're like between a rock and a hard place, so to speak. So their relationship is a bit cloudy right now. But that was not the main focal point of this episode. Ben is in the bathroom washing up when he's approached by three troopers who have their guns on him, and Ben gives him a chance, saying, "You don't want to do this, guys." And sure enough, he opens up a can of whoop ass on him and beats the hell out of all three of them. Unfortunately, after he's beaten them all to a pulp, he's immediately tasered by like an electric rod deal, like an actual electric prodding rod, by the same prick who called him Super Freak earlier, the same Southern accent military in arms crazy sergeant or whatever he is. And he straps Ben down to this operating table and forcibly removes a spike and is questioning and interrogating him about being an Ashveni spy, where Ben insists that he isn't, and he uses his spikes to help people to fight the war, to fight and destroy the Ashveni, but this guy won't hear it. He won't take any of it. So using a pliers, he rip opens Ben's shirt and forcibly removes one of the spikes, which of course causes poor Ben to just scream in pain. Oh, the poor son of a bitch. And it was satisfying, though, to watch the jerk holding it, like being proud of his handiwork, like, cool, it's still alive. And it latches onto his face. I'm like, yes, all right. I hated that prick. He's getting what, he deserved. Meanwhile, Anne is assisting the local army base doctor with this guy who's got this infection growing around this wound, where he got a wound when he was he and his patrol were fighting human collaborators. He says to Anne a few weeks ago where he took a bullet and the doctor stitched him up, but the stitch is now growing infectious. And since they have no painkillers or any kind of pain medicine on the base, she has to operate without it. And, oh God, this was like the grossest thing. She told the doctor to find an old thrown out bag of food to find maggots, because like in the olden days, she's going to put the maggots inside and on the outside of this guy's wound so they'll eat the infected, rotting flesh. Oh, that was disgusting. And of course, that poor guy also claimed he could toughen up, and Anne offers him hard liquor as the only way to numb the pain, but because he's a recovering alcoholic and he says he's been sober 10 years, he won't have it, so he insists that he'll just toughen up. But he screams it like crazy, and I wouldn't blame him, because she's practically opening up a stitch that had already been previously stitched. And she removes the shrapnel that was supposedly infecting his wound in the first place, and then she takes the cup of maggots and pours it into his wound. Oh, yeah. That was disgusting. So gross. Meanwhile, during all of this, for the very first time in the history of the series, we have seen Colonel Dan Weaver with shorter hair. Because since the pilot, going all the way back to season 1, he has had a ponytail with the baseball cap in the back of his head, and he has taken a haircut, he's shaved, he's dressed himself up, he's trying to reacquaint himself with his ex-girlfriend. All the meanwhile, he continues to notice the mark on her neck keeps getting bloodier. and she tries to put a bandage over it, but it just keeps showing through. And they're trying to reconnect to each other as two people because they have history together, as they explained to Tom in the beginning of the episode, how they were both served together while Weaver was in the army years before the invasion, and he actually saved Katie's life and covered her ass quite a few times, and they formed a mutual friendship and respectful relationship with each other. But obviously, something happened between them at one time. But I think he's just glad to see a familiar face as she is. But I think Weaver's more happy about it since she seems to be kind of more stoic and robotic about it, which really concerned me. Meanwhile, her soldiers begin to arrest the different members of the Second Mask and eventually start bringing everybody into custody. And while this is happening, Tom is trying to find out where his son is. But before he starts demanding to know where his son is, because nobody's seen Ben for the past 24 hours, and nobody knows that the creepy sergeant took him prisoner and tortured him, basically. He's talking to one of the sergeants who is a lieutenant who is listening to a super old time radio from like Vietnam War era. And it's like the only source of radio that they have on the base, and he doesn't engage or communicate with the other militias he hears on the radio. He just jots down all the information as if he's just observing everything that he listens to. He's just writing down everything that he listens to. And Tom notices this. He's like, well, why don't you communicate with the Mason militias all over the world? Why don't you reach out to people? He's like, I've got orders from Captain Marshall, Katie, just to not engage any of the people on the radio, just listen to what they're saying and jot it all down. And that's when, Tom starts to get a little restless and suspicious that things are not as they seem. So he then starts questioning one of the other lieutenants, like the second in command of the base, about Ben's whereabouts. They take him into custody. They take Hal into custody. And Weaver notices they start taking everybody in the Second Mass into custody, taking their guns and basically rounding them all up. Fortunately, young Matt has managed to avoid being caught and taken as prisoner. So Weaver grabs him in the bathroom when they're both alone, and he tells him, like, you need to get on one of those motorcycles and go get the rest of our people where Cochise and Dingon are, working on that communication device, because apparently there's still a good number of the Second Mass out there in the at the whiskey still. And so he gives Matt some of the clothes that he was doing laundry with. Unfortunately, they happen to fit Matt, so these clothes must have belonged to a very small soldier. And for some reason, Matt knows how to ride a motorcycle. Yeah, who cares? Minor detail, didn't really pay attention to it. The point is, Matt escapes off base to go get help. Weaver, meanwhile, confronts Katie as to what the hell is going on with her and why she's having her men arrest the members of the Second Mass. And just like that episode back in Season 2 when the Second Mass is arrested by the Charleston Army, it's because they start to hear about the Second Mass's adventures and what they've been through, how Tom and Hal have both had eye worms in them, and Tom even openly admitted in front of Katie that he flew a beamer up to the moon last season where they destroyed the Ashveni's power source. And, all of this stuff that just raises doubt amongst Katie and her soldiers about the true loyalties and the motives of the Second Mass. And, of course, as the audience, we know they're all innocent, but Katie and her men take some convincing and, shockingly, holds a court-martial as if it's regular peacetime and there's no war out there, no war to be fought. And this just baffles Tom, Weaver, and the rest of the Second Mass. Like, what the hell are you doing? You're holding a court-martial? You're putting us on trial when there's a war happening out there? We should be helping each other destroy the Ashveni and kill these things and making an assault on DC, because whatever the Ashveni are up to, that's where most of their activity is. But Katie won't have it. She insists to Weaver that a court-martial must be held to determine if the Second Mass is guilty of conspiring with the aliens. And meanwhile, while this is happening, Maggie has also avoided capture, and along with Isabella. But Isabella, unfortunately, is captured by the same creepy sergeant who tortured Ben earlier, and he's got a nasty little facial scar from where the spike hit him right in the cheek. And and basically what happens is that, you know, he gets Isabella alone in a room somewhere, bends her over a table, and he's about to rape her. Fortunately, Maggie holds him at gunpoint and makes him drop the knife that he's about to use to, like, presumably rip off her clothes or hold it to her throat or whatever. He drops the knife, unfortunately gets the drop on Maggie, turns around, they scuffle for a bit, but Maggie eventually gets the upper hand. Despite not having her spikes, she's still a formidable and capable fighter. And there's this great scene where Isabella and Maggie kind of go back and forth, kicking the shit out of this creep, and that was extremely satisfying to watch. Like, fuck you, dude! And, like, they kept pounding on, wailing on him, and kicking him in the face and the chest several times. So I'm like, come on, just shoot him or stab him, get it over with. Ugh. And they escape together, and now they're kind of forced to work together since the rest of the Second Mass has been taken prisoner or is at the court-martial, even though they both have feelings for Hal, and their feelings for Hal are both kind of unclear. But now they're working together to stay alive, basically. And meanwhile, right after Anne had performed surgery by filling maggots in the guy's wound, the soldiers arrive and take her away into custody as well, because she wants to know what happened to Tom. We're like, where's my husband? What's going on? Like, oh, he's in the brig. And then they take her. But then the patient whom she was working on is defending her. He's like, hey, you should give her some answers. She's asking some honest questions here. So not everybody on the base is a total dick. Now, here's the thing that really startled me, was that towards the end of the episode, you know, it's like Katie kind of goes off into a glance or a trance or a stare. Like staring, like going off to the side. Weaver notices this during the court-martial as he and Tom are desperately trying to make a case that they are not with the Ashveni and that everything they've told them has really happened and they are not the enemy. But then Katie kind of all of a sudden snaps out of it and she condemns them to death, basically, for that's the price of treason, and Tom, Hal, and Ben have all been found guilty and are subjected to the death penalty. And sure enough, as I knew it, there is an Ashveni overlord on site who is definitely controlling Katie. Now, the big question is, are all of the soldiers infected like Katie is? Are they all under this warlord, this overlord's influence? Or are they all acting under her command, thinking she's making the right calls and decisions, not realizing that she's under the Ashveni influence? So we'll have to wait and see for the next episode for that to happen. But overall, good episode. Very entertaining, very satisfying to watch that prick get what was coming to him by both having the spike scar him in the face and having the ladies kick the crap out of him. So that was great. And overall, I hope Katie's not completely lost or too far gone. Hopefully there's still a piece of her left if they manage to figure out how to get the control device out of her neck and they realize there's an Ashveni overlord on site and they kill him fast. And there's only 3 episodes left, you guys. 3 episodes left of the final season of Falling Skies. Tune in every Sunday on TNT to watch new episodes for the next 3 Sundays. It's so sad, too, and this has been such a fun show for the past 5 years, but it's finally all coming to an end now. Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning in and watching. I hope you enjoyed the most recent episode of Falling Skies as I did. Please subscribe to this channel, like, and comment on this video. Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. Did you feel like I missed or glossed over anything? What were your favorite moments of the episode? Did it remind you of that episode from Season 2 when they first arrived in Charleston? What was satisfying to you? Did you like seeing that creepy sergeant get his ass handed to him by a couple of ladies? Overall, what do you think how this season is going to end and who's going to come out of this alive and who won't? So thanks again for tuning in and watching. Stay tuned for my upcoming film review for Ant-Man. I've been meaning to do that for a while as I saw it recently and it was quite good. So stay tuned for that. And of course, as usual, may the Force be with you.